A woman once who I think was probably selling roses, but she just gave me a rose, put it in my violin case, and that made me very happy. Well, it started before I was born. Um, my my father was a violinist in the Orchestre de Paris for 31 years, and my grandfather was a violist um, in the orchestra as well. The minute I was born, I was going to rehearsals. Um, so it was always a part of my life. It was always around us. You know, my brother played the piano all day long at home, and I really had no choice. I had another great love, which was ballet, and those were my two passions growing up. Um, Ballet was a little bit easier for me because it was my own world. I had nobody in my family that was pushing me to do it. I really, went for it on my own. Um, but the violin was always a very deep relationship between me and my father. So he is definitely my biggest inspiration. And I know that, and I always knew that he believed in me. So it's a very strong bond that we have together. When I was little, my father never believed in competitions because music is an art, and you're only really ever in competition with yourself. For some reason, when I was 10, he entered me into a competition. It was my first time really performing officially, and the competition was held on a stage, so there was an audience. And so I'm sitting there and I'm watching several of these people play, and they were playing like the Tchaikovsky violin concerto and Mendelssohn and I don't even know what else, but they were playing, like real music. And I'm sitting there and I'm 10 years old, and in my head I'm getting so angry with my father because I have a Leclerc sonata to play, which compared to what I'm hearing is a joke. I just can't believe that, and I'm feeling embarrassed, and I can't believe that my father would put me in this situation. And then I thought, maybe a simple piece, but it's still music, and I'm going to play it like it's the greatest music that's ever been played. And so it was my turn, and I played really well, and turns out that I won first prize in my category. And I think it was actually sort of a turning point in my life, understanding what it means to go on stage. You always have a choice. You can run and be scared, or you can just give it your all. He was a very difficult taskmaster, and he didn't accept any less than perfection ever. And it was scary. It was scary to work with him. With my father, I never knew how long the lessons could last. And I started playing when I was, 6 or 7, and so when you're that little, and your father tells you, okay, it's time for the violin. Lessons with him could last 4 hours. So inevitably, there were many times when I would try to do something and I just wasn't getting it right. Maybe I wasn't playing in tune, maybe my sound wasn't, good enough, or whatever it was. And I remember that I would just start crying. I never reacted in a violent way, but I would just stand there and I would try my hardest, but I would be crying. And I remember my violin would become literally slippery because I had so many tears. I was soaking wet on my face and my chin and my violin and my shoulder. And my dad is still going and, you know, telling me, come on, you know. My entire childhood was sort of ups and downs like that. But I also remember that no matter what, after these sometimes long lessons, and I would cry and all of this, he would come up to my room at night to put me to bed, and he would say something like, "You made some really beautiful sounds today." And it just made everything worth it. It is a very difficult instrument to play. It's very unforgiving at the beginning, especially, and it still is. And it takes so much time. I think that really is the most difficult thing. It's something that you have to do every day. And it takes just so much control and persistence and dedication, and you have to love it, you know, and you have to have a bigger vision because it doesn't sound the way you want it to at the beginning. So you have to know that it can. You have to believe that. I've always been very interested in the humanities, and to me, music is just the same as philosophy. It's about communicating. It's about understanding people, and so that's what I studied. I went to Paris as well, and I studied politics because I wanted to have a greater understanding and a greater reason to study philosophy and religions. And then when I finally came back to the violin, I ended up here in Boston at the Boston Conservatory to do my undergrad here. I had a wonderful teacher. Studied with Irina Mureșanu, who is a performer in all over, but mostly here in Boston. And then just last year I started my master's at the Longy School of Bard College, which is in Cambridge. So I'm very happy to be in Boston. It's a great city. Again, so many schools, so many musicians, so many opportunities. So playing in the subway had actually never occurred to me until a couple of friends came up to me and were doing some school project, and for whatever reason they didn't want to play in the subway, so they asked me if I would. And so I thought, sure, why not? New thing, I've never done that. Sounds cool, interesting. So I went the first day, and I couldn't believe it, but I absolutely loved playing in the subway. I mean, I loved the people watching me, seeing who stops, who doesn't stop, and so I decided to keep going, and as I got more used to doing it, it sort of became a real study in I don't know, human nature or people, or even what classical music means to people. Being, of course, in school and trying to make this my career, you hear a lot of things that are negative about classical music, how the concert halls are filled with older people, you know, young people are no longer interested, classical music is dying, it's no longer relevant, all of these things. Things that I never believed in the first place, but it's hard to find arguments against that. And so for me, playing in the subway has been that argument, which is that so many young people, and I don't mean little kids, because little kids always do sort of stop and stare and are very interested and are often pulled away by their parents who are in a hurry. But I'm talking about, you know, college-age students, people in their early 20s, early 30s, who stop and stay and listen and are there for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, sometimes don't take their trains, and actually enjoy themselves and listen to a little mini concert. And so I think that's what I love so much about playing in the subway, is this human rapport. And people who are afraid to go to the symphony because they think tickets are too expensive, the atmosphere is too fancy, this and that, the music is too complicated. You know, all you have to do is put that music in a place where they feel comfortable, and all of a sudden they can listen without feeling intimidated. It's wonderful to see that.